So since we are 3 weeks into the new season, I finally decided to look at some of the exotics that got buffed, specifically the Eternal Warrior. Since the Eternal Warrior now works like the Path of Burning Steps, it's alright now, but there are still a lot of things wrong with this exotic and why it's actually worse off than for the better. And that's going to be the focal point of today's video, and to show off what builds you can potentially make with this. And showing the Path of Burning Steps build, comparing it to it, and showing why, even though it got nerfed, it's still the better exotic and the better build. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's first talk about the Arc build and what the Eternal Warrior does now. So, what it says is Arc Final Blows grant an escalating damage bonus for Arc weapons. That is a 25% at ×4, and the same thing applies for here as well. Gain an overshield when active Fist of Havoc. That's still the same, and then when Fist of Havoc ends, you get the highest your damage for your Arc weapons. So you get the tier 4 after your super ends. And that's the gist of what the Eternal Warrior does now. Now, going to the mods, we have 2 harmonic siphons and a heavy ammo finder, 2 harmonic loaders and a grenade kickstart, 2 charged ups, an invigoration, elemental charge, and stacks on stacks, a bomber, special finisher, and a reaper. Now for the subclass, what I'm going to be using here is, for my super, I'm going to be using Fist of Havoc. For my melee, it's going to be Thunderclap, Pulse Grenade, for my grenade, Touch of Thunder, and Knockout. Stella, I can use an Ionic Trace when I use my Pulse Grenade, and Knockout Stella, my melee is now a Arc melee, and I can amplify myself. Fragments are going to be Spark of Beacons for blinding, Spark of Amplitude for orbs, Magnitude so my Pulse Grenade can last longer, and Spark of Discharge so that way Arc Final Blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace for me. And so with that, there's only 2 real weapons I can really attest that can work really well with this build, at least for the exotics, and that's going to be the Cold Heart and the Risk Runner. Cold Heart it basically has the intrinsic of target lock. I don't know the damage increase, however, and then Longest Winter periodically increases. It'll give me Ionic Trace when it's at its highest damage state. So that can feed back to me, and I can use Elemental Charge to get stacks off of that. Now, why Risk Runner is because it's just the ad clearing weapon. It's one of the best Arc SMGs in the game for ad clear, in my opinion. But that's also when you're amped up and you have to either get damaged by a target or damage yourself with your own Arc Grenade. So it's a very good weapon for fallen strikes. But overall, I think Cold Heart it beats Risk Runner in terms of what it can do for a build. So while I think that this build overall is pretty good, you can make a bunch of Ionic Traces. It feeds into you getting charged and you throwing a grenade and getting it back, and then you get more back because the Ionic Trace is coming back to you. Always that's a loop of constant orbs and Ionic Traces is very good. I think the build is fine even with the damage increase, but I have very big problems with the Eternal Warrior, and here's why. You have to use Fist of Havoc. What? What the fuck? And to be honest with you, I don't like Fist of Havoc. And with the footage I'm probably showing you right now, the damage bonus does not work with Thunder Crash. You have to use Fist of Havoc. I wish this wasn't the case, because the exotic would work so much better if it worked for both supers, but being locked to one and it being a roaming that can't heal you, well, Thunder Crush doesn't heal you either, but you can escape a lot easier, and it'd be a waste of a super if you tried to escape and add low health. Even though you do get the overshield, it's not that helpful in certain scenarios. And this is just my opinion about it though. I just haven't liked this exotic for a long time. Even with it being hot swapped in PvP, I never used it. Never saw the reason to. And I'm probably still not gonna use it. And that's just as simple as it gets. But hey, this is the build if you want to try and check it out. I'll have it linked in the description. But I want to now compare it to the Path of Burning Steps build and show you why, even though it's a nerfed variation, it's nerfed to what it once was, when you could stack with surges. It's still technically it actually does stack with Radiant. So I want to show that to you guys real quick and show you why that version, the solar version of the build, is just loads better than what the Arc build would ever do right now. So now on to the solar build, and for that obviously we're going to be using the Path of Burning Steps. Now the Path of Burning Steps did get nerfed. It is now from 40 to 25% for a damage increase, and obviously if you haven't seen this before, it gives me a stacking bonus up to ×4, 25%, and then when I'm harder to slow or freeze with stasis, and when I break out I take no damage and I create a solar burst around myself, and that gives me the ×4 escalating damage bonus usually. So for the build, I'm pretty sure it's the same exact mod setup as the Arc one. Double harmonics and a heavy finder, harmonic loaders and grenade kickstart, charged up, stacks on stacks, elemental charge, innervation, and then 2 outreaches and a reaper. Since we're using primary weapons instead of a special weapon, we can use whatever mods here. And the 2 best options I've found, at least for the primaries, is actually going to be the Teraba and the Tommy's Matchbook. I know, surprise, surprise. Teraba. An Epogen video with a Teraba? What a surprise.
What the hell is even that?
But I'm actually genuinely impressed with Tommy's Matchbook, as it is very good. And since it actually did get buffed this season, to now cause scorch stacks every 5 bullets, it's very, very good. And now for the subclass, I've tweaked it a little bit, and so everything up top is still the same: Hammer of Soul, Throwing Hammer, Healing Grenade, Roaring Flames, and Soul Invictus. So everything here is still the same. On the bottom, the only 2 things that are different now are Ember of Combustion and Ember of Tempering. What these 2 do is when I pop my super and I get a kill, I ignite the target and create a fire sprite. And then Ember of Tempering, I get increased recovery for 3 stacks, but what's more important here is that when I get a solar weapon final blow, it creates a fire sprite for me, and that's every 2 kills. Conveniently, every 2 to 3 kills is when you get one of the damage bonuses, 1 stack of the damage bonus for Path of Burning Steps. So it kind of works together very well in that scenario. So my final thoughts about these 2 builds is, first off, solar is just the solar variation of it with the weapon buff is just superior in my opinion, with all the damage stacking you can do with the 25% plus the radiant, and then whatever 2 options you have for your exotics, whether it be Teraba, Vex Mythoclast, which I'd never mentioned in the first place. With Vex Mythoclast is also a good option. You have Tommy's Matchbook, which has a 99% damage increase, along with the Radiant and other increases you can get, plus the Ignition. It's just overall a very good build, and not only that, but the amount of buffs you have with your super, or like that you have when you cause an ignition, is going to actually do increased damage. So the ignition is actually based off the buffs you get. It's actually it's very good for that. But overall, yeah, I just think the solar subclass is the superior build over the arc one. Now, I'm not saying the arc one is bad, but you're very restricted in what you can do and use, and you don't really have any good options besides, even in your legendary variants, I don't really know what you have that can really compete. I know you have the Aikilos SMG. And honestly, that's it. I mean, we have the No Survivors that just came out. We have the Mida Mini tool, the Drang Baroque. There's just a lot of different options that are just much better in the solar slot, and they just perform better than any of the arc weapons, in my opinion, do as of right now. But these are just my opinions about it. You guys probably have your own, and you probably make a better variation of a build that I have made. But that is all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know this went on a little bit longer. It's become more of a rant than anything, but these are just my opinions about it. And so, without not much else to really say here, the rest of the gameplay is going to be some strike gameplay using both of the builds. And so, with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.